Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Huge roster updates over the last 24 hours. Sentinels confirming TenZ will be returning to their starting team for the new season, but also the ex-Guard players. They have signed a new organisation, it seems, that will probably be the 11th team in the Americas VCT next season. We believe that's going to be G2. Lots of rumours though around how much they're paying these guys. Very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I really appreciate it. So Ye says expect the unexpected. We still don't really have any news on Ye, and we'll get to a second where he might go, just because I'm not sure the ex-Guards team is going to stay together as a 5, and that could open the door. Speaking of that team though, Trent begins with who could it be? Contract signed, and this is about the time of year where we start to see loads of players will come out with something like this, signing the contract or whatever it is, and Trent has signed the new arrangement, and that is supposedly going to be with G2. We heard the rumours recently, FlyQuest, Dignitas, the mid-orgs or whatever, we saw the drama about that between Chet and Tex, but now, as is reported here, G2 have reached a verbal agreement with some of the players of the Guard Valorant team. Now, it seems like they've actually signed an agreement, because, otherwise you wouldn't tweet out the contract signing gif, you would think, but still, this is what we presently believe. Now, it might still require approval by Riot, and this is the thing, that Riot probably have to come through and say, yep, sure, G2, you can come along. But let's not forget, G2 were meant to come into the league last year. But then, because of the Carlos thing, it didn't happen anymore. G2 were then rejected by the league. And, they had seemingly passed all the tests, but then the thing happened and they got rid of them. And, well, you'd think that Riot probably don't have too much of an issue now bringing them back. And people will say, oh, bad organisation, they shouldn't be allowed in. Carlos still has ownership. But, at the end of the day, there's dodgy people in like every single organisation in the world. I mean, this is how it goes. And orgs like G2, maybe for these players are kind of like a means to an end. But still, I think it makes perfect sense. And I think they're the best organisation anyway of the candidate organisations that are out there. And I think Carlos even mentioned before that they can make way more money in terms of sponsorships if they're just based in NA, which is possibly why they are rumoured to be paying at some seriously big salaries. So G2 potentially back in the franchise league, at least as a guest slot for the next couple of seasons, but G2 might be confident that if they do a good job, they can maybe get chosen by Riot to be a full-time partner in place of somebody else in, over the course of the next couple of seasons while they're in there. And yes, the deal that you get as a guest team isn't as good as the deal you get from like, you don't get your team skin, you get some stipends, maybe not as much. It's not exactly clear as, let's say, you were an actual selected franchise team in the first place, but it's still enough to make it monetarily viable to pay a lot of money to get this spot. Toast says that these guys are getting the absolute bag, and the Guard players might be a bit of a blessing in disguise for them, that the Guards said no to the Punisher agreements and they needed to find an alternative. That initially, let's not forget, Riot said no alternative, you're not getting the spot. Then Riot said, you know what, that was probably a rash decision on our part, find an organisation and we'll try and support you. And he even reckons that up to like 40k a month, which is just absolutely insane. But so apparently these guys might be some of the highest paid players now in the entire league. And there's been lots of discussion on this, because this is in some sense what Riot said they wanted to avoid, where you have organizations competing between each other to pay the most money to sign these players. Because, let's say FlyQuest came in, let's say, Dignitas came in with big offers, G2 need to offer massive salaries to these guys so they can actually sign them and therefore reap the benefits of getting a spot, even as a guest slot in the league. But the problem is that there is really no alternative to this. If you're a free agent team that qualifies with no organisation, it's the same thing. You will also have organisations competing for, to pay you more salaries to sign you. So, the whole idea of you bought the spot, there's really no way around it, right? So I feel like Riot have to realise that, it's kind of just par for the course with the way that they've designed their ecosystem this season. The thing we don't know is, though, is it all 5 of the Guard players that are going, or is it only some of them? Because the report said that I think at least 3 of the players have been contacted and informed that this is going to be happening, but not all of the players have potentially signed this deal, not all of the players have tweeted out the contract signing give, especially Tex, actually, who says, basically, it's a terrible day for Rain, kind of saying, like, yeah, pretty sad scenario that maybe he's going to be leaving that team. But also that could well possibly mean he's going elsewhere. And the current rumor is potentially TenZ RE-SIGNS is a likely possibility. So we don't know what Riot will say. G2 and the players of X the Guards, now G2, will be very confident, I'm sure, that this will all get approved by Riot and it will go ahead, as they've got a verbal agreement at the very minimum at the moment. But how many of the players do they need to have? Is 3 fine out of the 5? You know, the coach, we believe, is coming along as well in Josh Artees. So, yeah, it's a very interesting situation, but it seems doubtful still that the entire team will run it back, because TenZ is possibly going elsewhere. Now, DFM, and just to quickly mention the APAC region, they were getting roasted pretty hard for having no idea what they were doing, but Bodork now actually says that they've decided to start trialing some good players, so that's potentially a positive. There's also rumours that Autumn, an Australian player, has reached a potential agreement with Chinese esports organisation FPX. So I think these organisations are allowed to bring in effectively like 1 import now from other regions, so I guess this would qualify as such. So that's an update that we can expect to see going forwards. And also from Flyer, so lots of things like this, with him seemingly also signing a contract or whatever whatever this is trying to exactly display. But Flyer, formerly Moist Moguls, was one of the most promising players in that team, and still Moist Moguls technically at the moment, but the belief is that Flyer might be gone, and potentially to Cloud9, potentially to a team like 100 Thieves, unclear, but it's quite likely, I think, that he is signing a deal elsewhere, and we'll see that here in just a couple of minutes time. Now, 100 Thieves are a really interesting team to discuss at the moment, because there's been no rumours around this team really until now, when, you know, Flynn and his spreadsheet, it keeps saying, oh, well, you know, not really sure, and they might just stick together. Now, I don't think sticking together is a good idea, and I don't think they will, frankly, at all. And I've heard some rumours that Derek is probably going to be gone, that I would say Stella is probably going to be gone as well, but I'm not sure. And even Bang, I think, is potentially on the chopping block as well. There's some rumours that have been going around. So Derek says, oh well, whatever happens, happens. So I think that Derek might be gone. We also get this from Stella that he tweeted out at the same time pretty much. So yeah, I don't know what's happening at 100 Thieves, and they've bided their time quite a bit. Let's not forget though, last season, Evil Geniuses did like nothing as soon as the franchise league began, and they were getting roasted heavily, right? Do you guys remember Sentinels tweeting out, does EG know they made franchising, stuff like this? And they were getting roasted, and for good reason, and I was enjoying some of the roasting as well, to be honest, on Evil Geniuses. And after they formed their team, they were pretty bad for like 3 or 4 months. And then it came good and they won the World Championship and, you know, laughed in everyone's faces, quite frankly. So maybe 100 Thieves are cooking something special despite currently moving quite slowly. This is another guy, though, that might be going there. There's some rumours about this. So Zix, who was actually part of Evil Geniuses, as a coach in addition to Potter, has been released by the team. Now, it's unclear exactly whether they dropped him per se, or whether he actually decided to leave, which is definitely possible if he wants to be, let's say, the head coach somewhere of a team maybe like 100 Thieves, because actually Frost says, formerly of 100 Thieves, don't feel bad for him, he will land on his feet pretty quick with, you know, 100 and then the winky face. So does that say he's going to 100 Thieves? Maybe it does. It's definitely possible. So yeah, I don't really know what's going on with 100 Thieves right now, but I think, to be honest, I would expect them, apart from Cryo and probably Asuna, I can expect to see that be a different team. Now, it's going to be a budget team. They're not going to be paying that much money anyway, but it's a little bit unclear as to whether they are making big changes or whether there's only a couple of things, or whether they're just going to bide their time as other teams figure out what they're doing. Now, before we discuss Sentinels, we also have the rumor around Artis. So we know what's going on with NRG. Well, they're blowing it up pretty heavily. SOM and FNS, their likelihood of staying on NRG is reducing by the day, and Artis is for sure gone. He's back in Europe, and apparently he's reached a verbal agreement with Na'Vi. So, you know, this is pretty funny how he was on FPX, that have kind of now become Na'Vi, goes to North America, causes a lot of drama, you know, kicks off against certain players, becomes a very entertaining personality, and then just, you know, gets smoked by a Chinese team and Billy Gaming twice in a row despite talking all this trash, heads back to Europe and calls it a day in the Americas, and possibly to Na'Vi. So that's what we believe Artis is up to. This is obviously gained quite a lot of traction because he gained quite, you know, following in some sense over the last season or so. But here we go then from Sentinels, confirming with Tarek and Rob Moore, and then at the end we find TenZ. Confirmed that TenZ is back, and I actually kind of hinted at this the other day just because, well, I didn't know, but when I saw TenZ was flying out to Japan, I was like, well, usually when you see players after the chaos of the immediate aftermath of the World Championship happens and Rostermania is going down, once they, like, leave and go to other countries, go on holiday, go back home, let's say, to where their parents live or something, it's usually the case that they've got things done and dusted. So clearly before TenZ went out, they got the new deal done. TenZ is now re-signed again, and Rob Moore actually confirms that, you know, this is as a player, right? So this isn't as a content creator, this is as a player, and despite all the rumours and the drama before the World Championship, this might not happen. TenZ is going to stay for the new season, which just makes perfect sense, I think, from all parties, and it's good that TenZ wants to keep on playing as well, and, well, obviously that team, theoretically, was doing rather well at the, well, before the World Championship, or during the World Championship, right, when they were practicing against other opposition that were playing at champs, they were apparently absolutely smoking them. We don't know exactly who the IGL was that was leading them to that position. We think it might be John QT, and we'll see that now. Also from Marved, just quickly, who then replies and says, how come nobody's messaging me back? So saying, look, you signed TenZ again. What's going on with me? Where's my contract to sign? This type of stuff. And yeah, so we think Marv to NRG, possibly, is what's happening at the moment. It doesn't seem like he's going to stay on Sentinels with these rumours. So this is, just to close out the video, Flynn's latest America's spreadsheet. He did accidentally change all of the Sentinels players to be Brazilian, which is pretty funny to be fair, but it's obviously not fully the case. So John QT is likely going to be there. He's got the L now that means likely, C means close to signs. Of course, TenZ now is signs, and that's confirmed. Just on NRG quickly, this is where Tex has been mainly linked to if he's not going with those guys to G2. And G2 have also been linked potentially to Leaf as well instead of Tex, right? So that's kind of the theory at the moment. Maybe there's even a spot for Ye in there if they could make it work for roles. That would be kind of interesting. Also on the NRG side, it seems narrates the likelihood of that has been reducing. And also Som and FNS, they are now under what he calls X, which is basically less than a 10% chance to stay, which is the same as Artis as well. So yeah, it seems like they've basically made their mind up now, NRG, that Som and FNS, they'll part ways with them, or they'll stay on as content creators, who knows, and they will go down the Victor Crashies, probably Marved route, with maybe Valen as the IGL, because no Valen for Sentinels, Valen for NRG might make a lot of sense. Cloud9, I'll just mention before we close out here then, because this is where Flyer is being linked to with maybe Oxy, maybe Screwface, maybe Shazam, maybe Narrate, maybe Nismo. Lots going on there at the moment, but lots of trials, and Flyer is actually in a question mark rather than a trial, which sounds slightly more likely than is elsewhere. So these are currently the names with the plus sign next to it, which have just been added. So yeah, this spreadsheet is just absolutely beautiful, and yeah, it improves every single day, honestly, at this point. So yeah, very much interested your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.